success for week 4, so stay tuned.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for 2, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
All right, guys, welcome to the Armchair Fantasy Show, episode 169. I'm Geoff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Of course, we are live every Wednesday and Friday night on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and now Twitch. Syndicated in all major podcast networks and streaming in the Going for 2 app for iOS and Android. I'm here tonight with my 2 co-hosts. First up is Gerson, man. What's going on, Gerson?
Not much. Last week was a good week. Obviously, a lot of the stacks, a lot of the plays we talked about went off. I don't remember week 2. I don't know what happened that week.
I think we missed that week for some reason.
I know I wasn't here. I know Jason was there. So. But it was a good week, man. Like, I can't complain. But with what we had, I'll take it, man.
Definitely. Tim, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. Happy to be back. I took some wins last week, but I also took some losses. One noticeable loss that we're going to talk about here in a minute.
All right, let's go ahead and get into the rewind.
The Weekly Rewind. Rewind.
All right, the week's rewind is brought to you by BUSR Sportsbook. Bet from everything on horse racing to the 2020 election. Visit BUSR.com/going-for-2 to sign up, get a welcome bonus, and bet on this weekend's NFL games. All right, Tim, go ahead and talk about that loss that you took there from last week. What happened last week?
Yeah, in the first roundtable arena, man, I got clobbered. So Randy Meter beat me 161-110. So that was pretty rough. I'm back this week. John Poliate is my opponent in the arena this week. We drafted earlier today. I'm going to be posting the lineups in the DFS Roundtable group. So vote on who you think's going to win, and maybe you'll be in the arena next week.
Good stuff. Gerson, any of the plays that you Gerson's actually frozen again, it looks like. But Gerson, can you hear us? Are you still here?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. We just your screen's frozen again. But go ahead and tell us what plays you hit on last week.
All my wide receivers that I mentioned. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you mentioned every one of them. That's why.
Yeah.
Oh, did we lose his audio now too? Oh, we may have lost his audio now as well. All right, well, it's just me and you for right now, Tim. So yeah, a couple plays that I hit on last week. I hit on Jared Goff. He's one of my quarterbacks that I had that I thought would go off. He scared me there for a little while. It was a little ugly for a little bit in that Buffalo game. They ended up coming back in the second half, and Jared Goff paid off. I had Cooper Kupp as well with a good stack there. That was one of my good lineups. Jeff Wilson Jr. Scared me a little bit for a while too because he wasn't doing much in that first half, and then started picking it up in that second half, especially after McKinnon got hurt. And then he beasted and had 2 touchdowns. So he was another good call. A few of the ones that I missed on. I'm trying to remember.
You were also big on Henry last week, and obviously he did really well. If you pivoted to Henry last week, you probably did well.
Yes, I had a lot of Henry last week. I did miss on Miles Sanders. I think we all had Miles Sanders. He was pretty chalky.
Right.
He really didn't pan out too much for us. I had some Zach Ertz. The Jets defense was the kind of a popular defense, and that one didn't. I think they got 0 points for that one, so that wasn't very good either. But overall, I think we crushed it last week. I had a very good week, and hoping to do that again this week. And we might have Gerson back again, I think.
Yeah, you do.
All right.
I tell you guys, man, I'm still adjusting my laptop to all my setup. Apparently, I don't know. It's a gaming laptop, so that's what I asked my friend for. But
you're here just in time for quarterback.
Yep, just in time.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, Gerson, we'll go to you first here since we might lose you again soon. So let's get your quarterbacks out of the way here. Who you got for your top tier quarterbacks?
You're so funny. I got Dak Prescott. I mean, this guy's playing like an MVP. He's playing like he wants to get paid. Obviously, he has been wanting to get paid for the last 3 years, but Jerry Jones, a fucking moron.
Tell him how you really feel.
What?
That's a tell him how you really feel.
Oh, yeah. Well, he is a moron. He's on pace for 6,336 yards. Obviously, that's not going to sustain, but that's pretty insane. Brown defense has allowed the second most points per game and the third most points per drive in 2020. Their secondary is hurting right now. They had Greedy Williams, I think he was like a first rounder like last year or 2 years ago. Denzel Ward, another really good player, dealing with a groin injury. Dallas ranked first in attempt per game in the entire league. Browns are giving up the 10th most passing yards per game, and they also giving up the third most touchdowns per game. And we know he's a dual threat quarterback, so his upside is pretty damn high. Every week I'm probably going to play either Russell Wilson, Dak Prescott, because these mobile quarterbacks in the NFL right now are winning GPP.
Nice. And Tim, you got one of the guys that he didn't talk about there. Talk about your top tier quarterback there.
Yeah, I love Russ this week too, but I think I'm going to have more. One guy I'm going to also have a lot of exposure to is Kyler Murray. Another guy you talked about, a mobile quarterback playing really well. I think he kind of let some people down this week, but I'm going to go right back to him again this week. I think you can attack them, through the air as well as the ground. I think everybody's going to think, okay, you play running backs against Carolina, but you can beat that team a variety of different ways. So I think Kyler's definitely in play. He's playing so well. I think he's, definitely in for another bounce back week.
Yeah, I like all those calls. Of course, those are probably going to be, pretty chalky quarterbacks. The other guy I like at 7.3 is Mr. Josh Allen. Of course, he's been lighting it up so far. He gets to go to Las Vegas to play this game, but I think that his legs give you a solid floor. His arm gives you a tremendous upside. He's got some good receivers there. John Brown is healthy and will play, so that helps his ability as well. Some good stacking options there, and even some good comeback options with guys like Darren Waller. I think can be a good option to stack there as well on the comeback. So I like Josh Allen at 7.3 as well. And I think last week we talked about it. I think it's kind of the same thing this week too. I think we're more or less paying up for quarterback again this week. I think there's a few mid-tier guys and maybe like one or two like values, but I think for the most part we're probably paying up for quarterback again this week. Let's go ahead and move down into those mid-tiers, Tim, and give me a couple of your guys you like in the mid-tier.
Well, I don't want to talk about Gerson's guy, so I'm going to go down to the guy that I really I like really a lot after the news that came out today, and that's Matthew Stafford. I was already kind of on him earlier in the week, but after the news came out today that both Jenkins and Lattimore are going to be out, really, it's going to open up that passing game, and I think Matthew Stafford could be a really good stack option this week, and I don't think as many people are going to be on him because the news broke so late in the week. So I think if you want a guy that you can save a little money on, you can play Matthew Stafford, got some good stack options, and you can bring it back with the New Orleans Saints players, and you got yourself set up for a good tournament lineup. Yeah,
I like it. I think you can go Galladay there. You can even go Hawkinson, who's having a pretty good season so far this year. So I love Stafford. Yeah. Gerson, going to your mid-tier guys. Who you got?
Deshaun Watson. He's 6,600. He's the 8th most expensive quarterback in the week. I mean, we come to accustomed to basically in the offseason, we see all the, DeAndre Hopkins got traded, right? And everybody's like, oh, man, Deshaun Watson hasn't looked the same without DeAndre Hopkins. I agree on that, but, I mean, they played a very tough schedule. I mean, and everybody's saying whoever set up the schedule for the Houston Texans, someone either shit in their lunch or something, but it's pretty bad. They played the Chiefs, the Steelers, and what's their name? What was the other team they played?
The
Chiefs, Steelers,
Ravens,
and Baltimore. Yeah. Baltimore. And, even if the Vikings were actually decent on defense, this would have been another tough matchup. But Watson gets to play at home against the Vikings defense. It's been horrible. They've one of the worst defense in the league so far. Minnesota ranked 30th in passing yards allowed at 877 yards. And they're stacked, which we'll talk about later. I mean, with Deshaun Watson, the ceiling is there. It's really cheap on his stack. And I'm excited to play this game. I'm going to have a lot of exposure to the Minnesota Deshaun Watson. Well, it is Deshaun Watson team, right? Yeah, the Texans. So I'm very excited about this game. He's cheap, he's affordable, so I'm going with Deshaun Watson. And he's coming out as the heaviest owned quarterback, which I found a little bit like kind of shocking compared to like other quarterbacks people been on,
Yeah.
But he's coming in at 10% ownership right now.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was a little surprised. I think it's because of his price. His price is a bit depressed compared to the other guys, and that kind of helps him out a little bit.
Yeah.
The only guy I have that we haven't talked about yet, Mr. Cam Newton. I know week 1 and week 3, he didn't throw the ball a ton. I think he had under 200 yards both those games. But if you look at week 2, and he had almost 400, I think in this game against Kansas City, he's going to throw the ball a ton, obviously, to keep up with their pace. He'll still get his yards with his legs. And I think that this might be finally. I'm gonna call it right here in the podcast. This is gonna be N'Keal Harry's breakout. I've been saying it every show, and I'm gonna keep saying it until it happens because I want to claim that. I've been calling it since the offseason, but I got some stats on him later on when we get to the receivers that I want to talk about. That the reason why I think he'll break out this week. But yeah, Cam Newton at 6.4 is definitely a good play for me. All right, let's move into the values, and I see we all have one guy in common. But Gerson highlighted him, so we'll give him to Gerson. Gerson, talk about your highlighted value.
Bro, you gotta stop calling me out like that. Jeez, man. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick, or as we like to call it, it's Ryan Fitzmagic. The guy, he just makes the offense go. Like, he's the reason. Like, if Tua was in there, I wouldn't have confidence playing Tua at all. The Seahawks have been a funnel defense this year. They've allowed only 200 rushing yards, but they've allowed over 430 passing yards per game. So if you don't know what funnel means, it means they're really good at the run defense, but really shitty at the passing defense, or the opposite way, whatever way you want to say it. Seattle defense giving up the second most fantasy points per game to quarterback. 30.7 points per game. That is insane.
That's crazy.
Which may now they're without Jamal Adams. He's out. Jordan Brooks. And the addition of Lano Hill, Quentin Dunbar, they're down basically a quarter of their defense. He just mispriced, like incredibly mispriced. He's the 24th highest priced quarterback on the slate on DraftKings. And another fun fact is that since week 12 of last season, he actually leads all quarterbacks in DraftKings points.
Wow.
So that's amazing to me. The other incredible thing is that based on my projection and my value, he's coming in at 4.2 times value. I have him projected for almost 23 points. So versus Seattle, I'm going to have a lot of him. And with his stat, it gives me the ability to open up for running back, tight end, well, wherever I want to pay up, But I love Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's going to be one of my heaviest owned quarterbacks this week.
Yeah, just to add to that, because he's the only quarterback I had in the value tier. I actually wrote an article on Fantasy Pros, and I had it as my value choice. And just to give some stats, so the Seahawks, not only have they given up the most yards this year of any team, they've given up the most yards through 3 games of any team in the NFL history, which is a ridiculous stats. 1,292 yards in 3 games. They gave up 434 yards to Matt Ryan, 397 to Cam Newton, and 461 to Dak Prescott through the first 3 games. So Fitzpatrick loves to check the ball down the field. He's going to be an awesome value this week.
And Dunbar and Adams are both out too.
Yeah, so that's Fitzpatrick will be in a lot of my lineups for sure. Stacking options are a little difficult because I don't know if it's Parker, is it going to be Gesicki? It's not quite as easy to pick a good stacking option with him, but I think I will have a little bit of both. All right, Tim, we'll go to you. You do have another quarterback in your values that actually you don't. You got the same one I got. It's Gerson that has one more guy in his value tier. Who do you got, Gerson?
Derek Carr. Sorry about that, guys. I was switching the sheet. I have Derek Carr. I mean, the Raiders are going to be in this game environment where it's Derek Carr. He's going to be passing the ball. We've seen the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are lights out, going almost 30 points a game basically. Vegas has them projected for 25 points. If you want to be contrarian, I think Derek Carr is a very good way to go. And he's going to be really cheap with his stack of Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to give up plays. But if you want to be contrarian, he's one of my favorite contrarian quarterbacks for value. Well, he's not sexy. I know that. It's not the funnest with no Ruggs, no Bryan Edwards, but I think you can make it work. And then you can build a really solid running back and wide receiver one-off core,
Yeah, I like it. And I did have one more guy I just want to mention real quickly before we get to the tight ends. That's Baker Mayfield. He's definitely a tournament play, not really a cash play at 5.8. Dallas's defense is almost as bad as Seattle's defense in the secondary, so I think Mayfield can put some points up. Obviously, we know Dallas can score a ton, so they'll be throwing the ball a lot. So I do think Mayfield can put up some points at 5.8. He's a decent stacking option with Odell Beckham and a few other guys there. So I just want to mention him really quick. Let's get into the tight ends.
Did somebody say tight ends?
All right, Tim, we'll go to you first on this one. Give us one of your elite tight ends.
Yeah, I'm going to go back with Mark Andrews. He kind of let some people down last week. Obviously, he played that slate on, Monday night. But, he's obviously very talented. We know that Lamar Jackson looks for him in the red zone. So I'm going to go back to him at 6K. I think that Travis Kelce, who is normal, when you look at the slate, that's your first, tight end you see. I don't know that he's going to have a real big week. I'm not super high on him, so I'd rather take the 800 discount and go for Mark Andrews, who I think has a similar floor and this week a better ceiling.
Yeah, I like it. I have him in my stacks as well, my tight ends. Gerson, who do you got in your elite tight ends?
I don't pay up too much for tight end, but the elite like Kelce and Andrews, they do make sense. But this week, elite tight end for me is I don't want to play the beat because he let me down last week. But it's Darren Waller, so I'm not playing the beat guy. The beat will come back when he earns it. Okay, you got to earn it. But he's not being a baller right now. That's the problem.
Yep.
He's not being a baller. Last week he got shut down basically. But Darren Waller, like I just barely mentioned about Derek Carr, there's no rental. There's no Ruggs. There's no Bryan Edwards. There's basically really all the opportunity, all the targets go to him, and he already had the seventh most fantasy point. The Bills allow the seventh most fantasy points per game to opposing tight ends, and Mike Gesicki, they're almost like the same kind of tight end. They're both athletic, they're both tall, they're both big, and he tore them up. And they ranked 15th in DVOA against the pass. I'm going to have a lot of Darren Waller, and it makes sense because it looks like the field's on him too. Right now, he's coming in at the highest on tight end at 19.5. That is insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is insane. I mean, but it's for good reasons, right, guys? I mean, he's going to get the opportunity. He's going to get a target, and the Buffalo Bills are going to score on the Raiders because their defense is as bad as the light margarita on freaking Margaritaville or something like that in Los Angeles.
All right, I just wanted to mention the one guy that I had that we hadn't talked about, and that's Tyler Higby. He's had that one big, huge game in week 2. Week 3 and week 1 were sort of meh. But against the Giants, I think he will shine once again. So I think I'm just going to kind of mention him 5.7 at, going against New York Giants. I think that offense looks really good. We saw Jared Goff last week sort of get his mojo back a little bit. So I think Higby is a good play there against the Giants.
Yep.
All right, let's move down into the mid-tier. And, Gerson, I'm going to go to you first on this one. You got 3 guys listed there. Pick one of your favorite guys to talk about your mid-tier tight end.
Can I talk about T.J. Hawkinson? Is that?
Yep.
Okay. T.J. Hawkinson, he's a very cheap way to get, exposure to a big game like New Orleans. The Saints have allowed the most points to draft team points to opposing tight ends. Not only that, they ranked 32nd overall versus tight end, allowing 27.3 points per game to tight end. Saints have allowed 34.1% due to skilled player production to the tight end position. I mean, all of these stats are incredible. But then when I went a little further, the Saints have allowed 29 of 38 passing for 290 yards and 4 touchdowns to tight end. Now, if that doesn't speak to you volume and a defense that can't defend a tight end, then I don't know what does. But T.J. Hawkinson, he's talented. He's getting all the targets. And I think he's the number 2 guy now there with Kenny Golladay and him. Yeah. I think Marvin Jones has been pushed to the side. And don't even talk about the running back because we know Adrian Peterson doesn't catch. And DeAndre Swift, apparently, well, he doesn't exist in that particular world.
Yeah, I don't think Hawkinson is as good as a play as he was 2 days ago. Because I think the reason they're so bad to tight end is because their corners are good, pretty good, and so they force throws there. And with their corners out, I think that they're going to see more balls going to Kenny Golladay and Marvin Jones. But I still think he's a great play. I just think he was a better play Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm with you. I got Hawkinson on my list too at 4.8.
I think I'm going to find the money to get up to Darren Waller personally.
Yeah,
I'm going to try and find the $400.
Agreed. But yeah, the only note that I had that Gerson didn't already mention, I had the whole thing that he had the Saints give up the most points, blah blah blah. But we saw on live, primetime TV what Waller did to the Saints a couple weeks ago. So I think Hawkinson's in that same sort of mold there. I think he can really kill the Saints with his athleticism.
Right.
All right, Tim, what you got for your mid tiers?
Yeah, there's two guys here that I really like. I see one of them Gerson wants to talk about, but I think I'm going to steal this one away because you didn't highlight it, and that's Dalton Schultz. Two things here. I think when Blake Jarwin went out, people just assumed that Dallas was not going to use their tight end, and then they actually pretty much plugged him in the same role they had previously for Blake Jarwin, which is pretty similar to the role that they had for Jason Witten. So, the coach may have changed, right? The coordinator changed or whatever. They're still running a lot of the same stuff. So I think Blake Jarwin is a good play, not only because the Cowboys are projected for 30 points, but Cleveland is also terrible against tight ends. So it's just, everything kind of lines up for him to be a good play. At 4,300, he saves you a little bit of money over Hawkinson and Waller and gives you some exposure to that Cowboys game. Like he was talking about with T.J. Hawkinson, get cheap exposure to a high total game. Very likely to target him near the end zone. So I think he makes a pretty good play. And then the other guy I have listed here is Rob Gronkowski.
Oh my God.
He may burn me again, but with no Mike Evans, I actually think that they're going to. No Chris Godwin. I don't think that they can just feed Mike Evans the whole time. Spoiler alert, we're going to talk about Mike Evans here in a minute. But I think that they actually try and find a couple plays in the red zone to try and get Gronk involved. So I think he may end up, get a discount on some of these guys, and I think he may end up paying off.
I like it. I
He's
think also
to somebody else that's not Mike Evans, right?
Yeah. Also, I think it isn't Scott Miller's questionable there too. I'm not sure if he'll play or not.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's a good call there. I think if you're going to play Gronk, this is the week to play him. All right, Gerson, what do you got for some of your mid-tier values?
Mike Gesicki versus the Seattle Seahawks. Mike Gesicki is 4,800, facing a no Jamal Adams team, and we saw how abysmal they were last year when they didn't have Jamal Adams, obviously. And we always played a tight end versus the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, at least I did. And I think it's going to be the same situation. I mean, I just named like 6 injuries on that defense. So Mike Gesicki, with everybody kind of worried about his snap shares last week, they were like under like the 50%, I believe. But don't worry about that. It'll come back to norm, But Mike Gesicki in that stack with Ryan Fitzpatrick makes a lot of sense. It's just he's to me, he's one of my favorite athletic tight end, and that's what I look for. And sorry, Tim, I apologize about laughing about Gronkowski. I actually didn't look into him, but I see why you like him. 7 for 6, 48 yards. I mean, yeah, I guess it makes more sense now, and I do apologize about that.
It's all good.
It might be the Kyler Murray call.
There you go. The only guy I have here, he's a tournament play, really, and you're really kind of just hoping that he finally has his breakout because he hasn't been good this year at all. Austin Hooper at 4K. The Cowboys are bottom 10 in defense versus the tight end. I think the Browns are going to have to score points. Hooper's got to get involved eventually, right? I mean, they spent all that money on him. If he's going to do anything, this has got to be the game that he's going to do it in. So Austin Hooper is going to be a guy that I'll put into a few lineups as well. All right, Gerson has no value tight ends listed. Me and Tim have the same guy, which is kind of ironic because this is Gerson's boy, and he didn't list him, and me and Tim both have him. Tim, I'll let you talk about this guy.
Well, I think there's a couple things coming together. This may finally be the Logan Thomas week that we thought going to happen the last couple weeks. But one is that Washington's pretty banged up with their wide receivers. Sims is out, McLaurin's banged up. And then 2 is I think it's easier to attack Baltimore with tight ends than it is with wide receivers. So I think even though you always have the Haskins downgrade, I think if they're going to move the ball at all on Baltimore, this is how they're going to do it. So he's going to get a ton of targets. Whether or not he turns that into any yards, gets into the box, I don't know. But at 3,500, I think he's 3,500, right? Then I mean he's just cheap enough to where you can pretty much take a 10 from him, and I think he'll score at least 10 points. So
yeah, he's 3,500.
Yep, and I had a note on him as well. I think the Ravens give up 18.8 fantasy points to tight ends. That's 4th worst in the NFL. So I think he's definitely a good play. He gets tons of targets. The production's got to come eventually. I mean, it's got to even out. He's getting all the targets. He just can't do anything with them. But I think this week he will be able to do something with them and hopefully help us out in our lineup. So I love him. All right. Anything else you want to mention before we take a commercial break, guys?
Nope.
Gerson?
No, I'm good.
All right.
You want to talk about Jimmy Graham?
He's in play. I mean, I saw Nick Foles play last week. Unfortunately, he was on the red zone a lot because the Falcons were allowing them to come back. I mean, they just, and I think he got a lot of hype from, if you guys don't know who he is, he's a tape freak. His name is Greg Cosell. He got a lot of hype from him and Adam Kaplan. And these guys were talking about Jimmy Graham, and Jimmy Graham looked good last week. I mean, he's moving, he's catching balls, he's getting a lot of targets, so I like Graham.
Yeah, he's got a new nickname now. They're calling him Jimmy Grandpa because he's so old. He's been around the league for so long.
Wow.
All right.
They call you too, Geoff?
Yeah, they call me that as well. All right, guys. Quick commercial break. We come back, we'll do the money positions, the running backs, and the wide receivers, so hold tight. What's up, everyone? Geoff Lambert here, and I want to tell you about Society Socks. Is your sock drawer kind of boring? I know mine is. Society Socks is a men's sock subscription company that sends 2 pairs of exclusively designed socks to your door every month. These socks are made of a warm, soft, and comfortable blend of combed cotton, guaranteed to make your feet feel and look great. At the office or the bar, your socks are sure to be a hit. You might be wondering, why are they called Society Socks? Well, that's the best part. Socks are one of the most needed and least donated items at homeless shelters. Society Socks aims to change that. With every pair of socks purchased, another pair of socks is donated to homeless shelters. So on top of receiving awesome socks every month and amping up your sock drawer, you are actively making a positive change in society. With 2 surprise pairs of socks arriving at your door every month, you'll begin to grow an impressive sock collection. Visit mysocietysocks.com/armchair and enter our promo code ARMCHAIR to get 50% off your first subscription. Put an end to boring socks and subscribe today. Again, that's mysocietysocks.com/armchair and use promo code ARMCHAIR. All right, guys, welcome back. I'm here with Tim and Gerson, and we're about to talk running backs for Week 4 in your DraftKings lineups. Let's go ahead and hit the drop.
It's time for running backs. Running backs.
All right, there's a lot of the same plays that we have throughout our list here. Gerson, I'm going to go to you first since you have a guy highlighted. We'll let you talk about him real quick.
Gotta stop with the highlighted crap, bro. My number one guy this week is okay. First off, Alvin Kamara is the number one guy, but a guy that I'm gonna have a lot of is Dalvin Cook facing the Houston Texans. Again, I'm targeting this game. I know it sounds like I'm only talking about that game, right? Matchup is great. Facing the Texans front seven, they've gotten shredded all year. Clyde Edwards. It's so funny. I don't know if you guys watch Monday Night Football, but apparently it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, it's just Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Helaire. It's not Helaire.
I was like, yeah, he's 25 for 138 and 1 touchdown. And then the Ravens running back, 21 rushing attempt, 176 yards and 1 touchdown. Of course, that's Mark Ingram, Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins. And then James Conner last week, 18 for 109 and a touchdown to start the season. That defense is allowing anybody to run through them. I mean, the Texans ranked dead last in rushing yard, allowing 565 this season. They're allowing, this is crazy, 5.84 yards per carry.
Whew.
Oh, my goodness. And like I said, I expect this game to be a very sneaky shootout. I'm going to get a lot of exposure to that game and run it back. I can run it back with Dalvin Cook. I usually like to correlate not the running back with my quarterback. So on the other side, I'll put Dalvin Cook. Nice.
And I know, Tim, me and you have 2 of the same guys there that I'm going to talk about my guy real quick because I have a good stat on him that I want to mention, Mr. Alvin Kamara. I think he'll be pretty chalky, but I do have this good stat. If you just took his receiving numbers, so just his receptions, yards, and touchdowns receiving, he is the wide receiver 4 right now, just as just his receiving stats, which is pretty crazy to think about. So at 8K, I mean, he really should be in that Christian McCaffrey type price range. He's only $8K right now, so I mean, he should be at everyone's lineup. He's going to be amazing once again. Mike Thomas has been ruled out, so he'll get the receptions again. So Alvin Kamara definitely is a very chalky play, but I love him this week. And
yeah, I feel like DraftKings priced him like they thought Michael Thomas was coming back. And then obviously now that he's been ruled out, he just looks like such a good value.
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy to say that an 8,000 player is a value, but he really is a value at 8K. And another guy that it's tough to say is a value at almost 8K is Ezekiel Elliott. But he's just getting insane usage this year. He's playing almost every snap. Mm-hmm. Tony Pollard is a distant memory at this point. Zeke is playing 90-plus percent of snaps, similar to the usage that Christian McCaffrey was getting last year. He's at home in a high total game where he's favored, and I think he's going to get all the usage. So I think Zeke makes a great play here. I think there's plenty of value to be able to fit him and Kamara. We're going to talk about it here in a minute, but I think most of the builds this week are going to be Kamara plus like Zeke or Cook plus one of the like 6K guys.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that's how a lot of lineups are going to look. So you can obviously pivot off of that, but I think that they're that way for a reason.
Yeah, the only note that I had on Zeke was that he actually has the second most red zone carries in the league, second only to Derrick Henry. So obviously he's getting the money carries down in the red zone. So he's an awesome play at 7.8. So I love that.
He's getting every carry. Like
yeah, he's getting everything.
Worrying about Dak Prescott vulturing you near the touchdown. Like there's no worry about they're going to bring somebody in for this play. Like no, it's going to be Zeke or it's going to be Dak.
Yep. All right, let's go down into the mid-tier, and we mentioned this guy just a minute ago, Mr. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Gerson, talk about him.
Yeah. Fucking Monday Night Football. This guy was funny. I was just, like, so shocked. Like, he kept at it. I'm like, did he just say that? And then boom, boom, over and over and over. But Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he ranks 6th in the league right now in opportunities per game at 23.7 opportunity. I mean, he's going to be busy in this one, too, because how many times have we seen the New England Patriots play the Chiefs very well? I mean, they're like, I wouldn't say a rivalry no more because Tom Brady, and they used to do the Tom Brady versus Mahomes thing. I think New England can keep up in this game, too. He totaled 66 with the 86 touches available to running back. That's 76%. Patriots ranked 19th overall in DVOA versus the running back. And the Kansas City Chiefs are on pace for 70 points per game. While I do agree with the Patriots being a much slower team, I think they average like 60 to 56 or something like that. They're not a high-paced team, but something's going to have to give in this game, and I believe it's going to be more toward the Chiefs getting more plays off because, well, we just saw what they did to the Baltimore Ravens, right? I think the Ravens are a better team than the New England Patriots, so I'm going to play Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's coming in at 23% ownership.
Wow.
And he's 6,400, guys. 6,400. That's really cheap. Right now, he is my number 4 value running back.
Yeah.
Nice.
Andy Reid has always seemed to find success running the ball against his Patriots over the last couple of years. It doesn't matter who's in the backfield. Like, if Damian can get it done, then he can get it done.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think CEH is a great play this week. One of my favorite plays. Another guy I really like in that same price range is your boy Gerson, Jonathan Taylor. I see you have on his list, and for good reason, man. The Indianapolis Colts defense is just so dominant right now. Sneak peek, we're going to talk about defenses here in a minute, but as long as that defense remains dominant, he's going to remain part of the game plan. They'll use him in the passing game, but as long as they're ahead, he's pretty much going to be on the field. And I don't think that there's any game script that I'm expecting this week where it's not going to be Jonathan Taylor favored. So, like he said, there's going to be a lot of people playing Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a lot of people paying up for some of those other guys. I think Jonathan Taylor might go overlooked this week. So I think for a GPP, 8.3%?
8.6% ownership. That is ridiculous. I love that call.
Yep.
He's such a good tournament play this week. You pair him with the Colts defense, and you're rocking and rolling.
All right. One of my guys I got, Mr. James Robinson, kind of taking the league by storm. Nobody even knew who this guy was. I think we talked about him on Wednesday's podcast, and Ryan in the offseason profiled 60 rookies in the offseason, and Robinson was not one of them because he was so far off the radar. But at 6.5 against Cincinnati, they give up the fifth most points to running backs. And James Robinson is second only to Austin Eckler in yards per carry in the red zone. So Mr. James Robinson against Cincinnati is a good sneaky play there. I don't think people will be looking at him. And then I also like Henderson at 5.8 against the Giants. Not much to say there. It's the Giants. We saw what the Niners did to them last week with our JV squad. Ran all over them. I think Henderson can do the same as well at 5.8. And Tim, you got one guy on your list that I wanted to talk about that's kind of burned us a couple of weeks in a row here.
Yeah, before we go over, I don't know if you mentioned this when you talk about James Robinson, but one thing to mention is that Cincinnati is 8th DVOA against the pass and 21st against the run. So
nice.
That also benefits them. They're gonna game plan to run the ball, and game should stay close. So again, he's gonna be on the field.
Agreed. And you got a guy, Tim, I want you to talk about that kind of burned us last week. He was chalk and he kind of burned us.
Yeah, that's Kenyan Drake, and I think he's probably going to be chalk again this week, and he may burn me again this week, but I'm going back to him. I think that you can, obviously, the way that you beat Carolina is to run the ball, and then it doesn't also hurt that they're having some injuries a little bit in Arizona. I think that DeAndre Hopkins is going to limp into this game, and so I think that they can win this game pretty easily, and they're going to ride Kenyan Drake, and this may finally be the week. If you held on this long, that he's going to pay out for you.
Yep, I like it. All right, moving into the value tier, there's a couple of guys that I wrote on my list that are, if so-and-so is out, One of them was Homer at 4K. If Carson was out, I think Carson's going to play, so we can eliminate Homer from that list. The other one, though, was if Fournette is out, I like Rojo. I do think Rojo gets the full workload here. It's a tough matchup.
He's out.
He's definitely out. Okay, so I think Rojo at 4.6. And it's a tough matchup. The Chargers are a pretty good defense, but I do think he gets all the workload there. So Rojo's a pretty good sneaky play at 4.6. Gerson, you got two guys on your list that you wanted to talk about.
I'll be honest with you. Over the next 2 days, Rojo is going to be the guy that's going to jump in ownership.
Mm-hmm.
He's my number one value right now. He's coming in at almost 16 points projected. Right now, the ownership has him at, you're right, Geoff, 0.9% ownership. But they announced that Fournette's out today. I expect ownership to pick up tomorrow. Or
he'll get the Jeff Wilson treatment that we got last week, where he was 0.9%, and then he built up as the week went on.
Yeah, I mean, it's just Ronald Jones, and then LaShawn McCoy, and then I can't remember the third guy. Oh yeah, it's our buddy Randy's favorite running back, Vaughn. But
Keyshawn Vaughn. Keyshawn gone.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's activated, but yeah.
Oh man.
The running back I want to talk about value is can I just talk about both of them?
Go ahead, David and David.
There's two guys, David Johnson and David Montgomery. And these two are both the same definition of contrarian and sharp. One of them is going to be very contrarian. The other one's going to be very sharp. The one that's going to be sharp is David Johnson. And, I mean, he did abysmal last week, too. 1.7 yards per carry. I'm pretty sure Geoff can do better than that. Put him out there.
1.5 is the best I can do. 1.5. I can't get 1.7.
1.5. Actually, Tim is the one that's a really good player in football. So, Titan team have allowed the 8th most fantasy points to running back. 28.8 points per game, ranked 23rd in DVOA against the rush. Implied total, again, I'm talking about the Texans, 29 points. I'm not worried about Duke Johnson. Wow, Tim, that is a great view of your apartment. No wonder you love living there. Duke Johnson, I'm not worried about him. I mean, even when he first week one, I mean, he got hurt in like week one, right?
Yep.
Something like that. Like, even then, I'm not worried about him. Duke Johnson's never going to be a thing. Like, people need to get over it. Like, it's not going to happen. He's high on 5.6K. But when you go to David Montgomery, who just basically land into the opportunity of all opportunity, I mean, if you can name me the backup running back, Geoff, I know you can because you're a dynasty player, but then I'd be pretty impressed. But it's Artavis Bryant and Ryan Knoll.
Artavis Pierce.
Oh, Artavis Pierce. See, I don't even know how to say it. But yeah, David Montgomery is now into the bell cow role for the remainder of the season. He's already getting the 18th most league opportunity per game at 17.3. It's almost the similar workhorse he got last year, but this time now he's going to get the reception. And he looked really good he got like a 30-yard reception touchdown. I think it was last week or the week before, and he looked really good in it. He's priced at 5.5, and he's coming in at 3.8% ownership. So those are the tales of two guys that can be sharp and contrarian. I'm a GPP player, so I'll probably have more David Montgomery. Of course, I'll have David Johnson, but yeah.
All right, just to mention a couple other guys that we have on our list there. I got Naeem Hines at 4.7. I think he hasn't been very usable the last couple of games because it has been a bad matchup. I think Chicago can kind of handle them a little bit more. Plus, without Paris Campbell and now without Michael Pittman Jr., I think Hines is receiving more passes out of the backfield because they don't have much left. I think it's just Zach Pascal, and of course T.Y. Hilton's still there. So Hines is pretty good at 4.7. And then Gerson, you got the guy Mike Davis, pretty good value. I think he's pretty chalky. And then you got Joe Mixon on there. I like Joe Mixon. I saw him high up on the ownership as far as RG goes. Why Joe Mixon?
It's just opportunity. I think it's coming. I think he's going to be a very contrarian player. I think right now he's coming in at let's see, Joe Mixon. He's coming at actually not low, 16%. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars, guys. They're one of the worst defense against the run. Just the worst defense. I mean, they're ranked right now in DVOA 9th overall, but I think that's a little bit screwed. They just hurt. Their middle linebacker just got hurt last week. I think he tore his ACL. It's the Cincinnati Bengals, 5,800 for a guy that's like an elite running back that Bill Belichick said was the best running back in the league last year, or whenever they played him. He's projected for almost 17 points for me. That's 3 times value almost. I mean, get Joe Mixon in your lineup for I honestly think the Jacksonville Jaguars are not like as bad as people make them out to be, but I think the Cincinnati Bengals defense is as bad as people make it out to be. So if that goes in one way, Joe Mixon just, I don't know, man. Like it makes you scratch your head a little bit. Like, why should I play him if he doesn't get the receptions, right? But he's gonna blow up, and you want to be on the train when he blows up.
Yep.
So if you get the 100 yards and a touchdown, you're already getting value.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of questions in my season long stuff that people are saying, oh, should I drop Joe Mixon or should I pick up this guy? The volume is still there. I said the same thing about a few other players. The volume is still there. It's going to happen. He's still a great player. You know, he's young. He will get it back. The volume is there. Just stick with it. I think this might be the game that he goes off. So Joe Mixon for sure. Tim, you left there for a minute. Is there anybody you wanted to mention? We did talk about Mike Davis a little bit, but you do have him on your list there. You want anything on Mike Davis you wanted to mention?
No, I just think, I mean, he's obviously a popular play this week, I think for good reason. I think to move the ball on Arizona, it's easier to do through the run than it is on the pass. So I think that they're going to lean on him heavily. And we've also seen that more than I ever thought possible, he's been involved in the passing game. So he's not somebody I really think can get game scripted out either. So I think he makes a great value, and that's why he's popular.
All right, let's go to the receivers.
And now, wide receivers.
All right, Tim, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Give me some of your top-tier receivers.
Well, I'm going to start with the guy at the top because he's obviously big news this week, DeAndre Hopkins. He is injured. He's not going to be 100%. He's a game-time decision, but he doesn't miss games. I fully expect him to play in this game, but I think he's going to be on semi-decoy duty. If there's anybody who can go out there and play and still play well at, 50% or so, then it's DeAndre Hopkins. They give him so many, as I said last week, so many opportunities behind the line of scrimmage with easy passes and just let him run that, he's still going to get you points. But I don't know, unless we get news that he's closer to 100%, that I think he's a great play this week. But I think he's somebody that you always have to have, keep in mind.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I saw a stat just before, not a stat, but a note before I just came on that they're actually going to leave it up to D-Hop if he's going to play or not. They're not going to make it. They're just going to, if he can play, he can play. If not, he'll sit out. So my guess is he'll probably play. So yeah, I like Hopkins as well. Gerson, who do you got in your top tier? You got two receivers highlighted here for the Seahawks, both of them. Talk about both of them.
Well, you already know that the general manager in Arizona was like, yo, bro, we just paid you like a shit ton of money, so like you better play. It's Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. If you've been playing these guys the last 3 weeks, you probably have a profit right now because they're tearing it up. I mean, Tyler Lockett last week got 3 touchdowns. DK Metcalf could have had 2 touchdowns, but he decided to pull what do we call it? Deshaun Jackson? Yeah.
Leon Lett is what they call it here.
Oh, yeah. So that was crazy. They're both priced up, right? 7,000.
Most of the people watching this stream have no idea who Leon Litt is, do they?
I'll be fucking honest, I don't either, but
Yeah.
I know who it is.
They're great plays this week, man. It kind of reminds me I think it was a couple seasons ago where like people who took down tournaments were running Mark Ingram and Alvin Kamara.
Yep.
And you were like, I never want to play two running backs on the same team, and then you're like, oh, then you're not winning, right?
Yep.
That's kind of how Seattle is this week. I don't want to play two running backs on the same team, two wide receivers on the same team. Then you're probably not winning money. So play them both. Play one or the other. I think they're both great plays this week.
Yeah, they're matched up. Lockett matched up with Jamal Perry, not a great cornerback. Xavier Howard, he hasn't been the same since like almost last year when he went down with an injury. And it's DK Metcalf that's going to be matched up with you. And I'll be honest, I respect Stephon Gilmore more than Xavier Howard. And he got like tortured. Like he made him his bitch, you know. But DK Metcalf, those are my two top wide receivers for this week. Obviously, Tim talked about Russell Wilson. I'm going to stack him.
I love it. So I got two guys on my list, both of them at 6.7. One of them is going to be contrarian, I think, Mr. Allen Robinson. It's a tough matchup versus the Colts, but I do think that Nick Foles will pepper him with some targets, so A-Rob will be a lower-owned option, I believe. And then Cooper Kupp at 6.7 against the Giants. He finally showed up last week and showed us why he was Goff's favorite target. Had an awesome game there. And the Giants are 30th DVOA versus the pass. And we just saw what Nick Mullins did to them last week with our JV squad. He lit them up for some, I think almost 300 yards. So I think that Jared Goff and Cooper Kupp are a good stack this week against the Giants. So those are my two elite guys. Moving into the mid-tier. Tim, who you got in your mid-tier?
Ton of guys. I love the mid-tier this week. We talked about Mike Evans. It's obviously not the best matchup, but with no Godwin, he's projected for 10-plus targets. You got to take him, seriously. You talked about Cooper Kupp, and for all the same reasons, I also love my man Bob Trees, a.k.a. Robert Woods. You get a little bit of a discount on Woods over Kupp. I think he's still very viable for the same reasons you mentioned. He's also, I think it's the highest total on the week, so you're going to want some exposure there, and I think he's a little easier to get in your lineups. And then the next three guys on my list are all highlighted. So Gerson, over to you.
Hey, Gerson.
I wanted to add about Mike Evans. Mike Evans actually going to move into the slot this week probably because they played him in the slot like 56% last week, and
I think that's around the
and it looks like he's just going to play there. And we know Brady, he peppers the slot. Obviously, it's usually like short little guys, but Mike Evans, like 6'4", 220 pounds playing the slot. He's going to kill it. I love that call. So the two guys.
You don't think Casey Hayward will follow him in the slot, is what you're saying?
I don't think so.
It's going to be with, what's the other guy's name?
King?
Yeah, he's been horrible this year. No, Hayward doesn't follow into the slot. He's not a slot cornerback. He's more like an outside cornerback.
I agree.
So the guy that I have check off, and if you look on my play sheet, it has like a little arrow going back to the other guy.
I see that.
That legit took me like 10 minutes to make, by the way. But it's Will Fuller, man. It's just like, and again, I'm going back to that Minnesota Texans game. I'm sorry to talk about it, but I'm going to try to get a lot of exposure there. Will Fuller and Brandon Cook both have great wide receiver cornerback matchup. One of them is going to be Brandon Cook matched up with Cameron Dantzler, who has a 50% or 50.80 cornerback rating. And then the other one is Will Fuller versus Holton Hill. Never even heard of the guy. And 49.83. And the Minnesota Vikings secondary is like for rookies, and besides Harrison Smith, much respect to him because I think he's a great player. But I don't know how good he's doing this year because apparently they're getting shredded. They're doing bad. But I think they're both reasonable priced too. $5,900. And oh my gosh, I sounded like a little girl. I sounded like a character on what is it called? Mean Girls? What the fuck? Laugh out loud. Oh my god. That's what I saw when I saw Brandon Cook. He is $4,500, I believe.
Yeah.
$4,500 for a wide receiver that can get you 120 yards and a touchdown. I mean, we've seen Brandon Cook break those long 80-yard bombs,
Mm-hmm.
And I think he has a lot to prove in this game because he's been really, really bad this season. And I think this is his coming out party. But stack him. with Watson.
All right.
The real question is, does Will Fuller's hamstring make it through the game?
Yeah.
My goodness. Dude, I guess what's his name? I hate Bill O'Brien, but Bill O'Brien he said he should be good to go. He was just on the rest day. I'm like, dude, he's like 24 years old. He don't need no damn rest.
He don't need no rest.
He does. Anybody does, he does.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. Don't say it was a rest day. Just say he was, like, dealing with a hamstring injury. We're not stupid, you know?
Right.
All right. As usual, we're getting close to that clock, so let's move down into the value tiers here. And, Tim, I'll go to you. Give me some of your values.
Well, I don't want to skip down because I think one of the best values on the whole slate is DJ Moore. So I'm going to talk about both the two guys he has highlighted real quick, DJ Moore and Devante Parker. They're two of my better values on the whole slate. I know we got to go quick here, but DJ Moore, I put in Robbie Anderson because truly I think either one of them could be the play. I think that they're both great plays this week. And then Devante Parker makes a great stack option, and obviously that's going to be a high-scoring game. Skipping down here to the values, I'm going to leave you N'Keal Harry, so I'm going to talk on the other side of that. Devante Parker is Preston Williams, and kind of my sneaky wide receiver option here is Isaiah Ford. He was going to be my sit call this week, but I decided to go a different option. Isaiah Ford has a great wide receiver cornerback matchup this week. He's going to be mostly playing out of the slot. He's only 3,700, and we know that Ryan Fitzpatrick will spread the ball around a little bit, and he's somebody that can easily take one out and pay off his value. So at 3,700, I think you do a stack with Ryan Fitzpatrick. You're at like 9K. And then you can just literally put whatever you want in the rest of the stack. So
nice.
I think that's probably one of my favorite value stacks this week.
Nice. I love it. And you left me N'Keal Harry. I wanted to talk about him. So
yep.
Harry is second in the league behind only Calvin Ridley in red zone targets. He has 6 of those. And he's the only receiver with at least 5 targets that has not scored a touchdown. So this is the week, guys. It's his N'Keal Harry week. He's getting a touchdown this week. I know Gerson loves it. I can tell by his face that he loves my pick there. N'Keal Harry. So stack Cam Newton, N'Keal Harry, and anybody from Kansas City. I'm calling it right now. Let's put my stamp on that one.
Yeah, that's the big-ass stamp along with you're inviting Mike Evans and Jameis Winston to the party.
So while we're talking N'Keal Harry, you definitely think he's worth paying up for over Damiere Byrd, even though Bird continues to see more snaps and everything. You think it's worth it for the red zone usage?
I do. I think that he's had a couple bad breaks where he should have either scored or had a bigger game. I do think Harry has a nice game this week. I think Bird's still viable. What is Bird? Is Bird still 3K?
He's 3K. Yeah, me and Gerson were talking before the show that I think my Bird is the word call might have been a week early. That this might be the week that you want exposure to Damiere Byrd. So I like Harry and they're 4K and 3K, right? Like, I don't know that I would play them together because it's hard for Cam to pay off with 2 stack options, but I think that you can easily play them interchangeably. And, like you said, I'm going to go with Harry, though. Jeff's calling it Harry week.
It's Harry week.
Hunter Renfrow is a great value, too, so don't go overlook him. He's a great value. Again, Rugg and Brian Edwards are hurt. Waller can't – well, I can't say that he can't because he almost did. He can't get 20 targets, but Renfrow actually did very well last week. He got 9 targets for 6 receptions, 84 yards and a touchdown. I think that could be kind of a little bit to what he can get this week. Not saying he's going to because I doubt Tre'Davious White covers Hunter Renfrow. I think he's going to be more on probably, sadly, Waller, but – even then, I don't know who he's gonna line up to.
Yeah, I agree. And I had Cole Beasley on here, but looks like John Brown will play, so I don't think Beasley's quite as good. If John Brown for some reason is eventually ruled out at 4.7, I think Beasley's an awesome option as well. But I did see
from another mother, Cole Beasley.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
I noticed you had Cobb listed. I want to mention real quick. I actually am not big on Cobb this week. I think of the 3 wide receivers, he has the worst matchup. So since he's more expensive than Cooks, I personally am going to go Cooks over Cobb.
Yeah, and I skipped Cobb because I had saw the note about Fuller possibly being out. So I thought maybe Cobb would be the one to kind of fill that role. But with Fuller being in, then I'm not on Cobb anymore. That's why I skipped over him.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into the defenses.
Defense.
All right, and Tim wanted me to make sure that we got to the defenses in time for him to talk about them. We usually do just one defense each, but Tim wanted to talk about a couple of them. So, Tim, I'll go to you first.
I do, yeah. I think if there was ever a week to pay up for defense, this might be the week. It's kind of strange to say you pay up for tight end and pay up for defense, but this might be the week to try and find the money, man, because there's so many dominant defenses at the top. I am usually an advocate of punting defense. I think there's a couple of great punt plays this week. But if you can get up to Tampa Bay, the Colts, the Rams, the Ravens, if you can get up to any of those defenses this week, most of the Millie Maker and big tournament winners over the last couple of weeks have not been punting. They've been paying up for defense. And I think that this is going to be similar to what we saw with the Patriots at the beginning of last year. You're going to have the Colts or the Tampa Bay Bucks in the winning lineup most weeks, unless there's just a team that gets 2, return touchdowns or something like that. So if you're ever going to pay up for defense, this is the week.
I like it. Gerson, who do you got for defense?
No, he already took him. The Ravens, Rams, and the Bucks. I've been very high on the Bucks since the beginning of the year. I said that they're top 5 defense the rest of the season, and I still believe that. The Bucks. I mean, all those defense that he mentioned, they all have something in common, and we like to call it adjusted sack rate. They all put pressure. I mean, Tampa Bay ranks 4th in adjusted sack rate. Rams rank top 14, and Baltimore. Well, I'm telling you, massacre. 13-point favorite. 17 total points by the Washington football team. I mean, they have to get something going because that last week was a poor showing.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, and go back on what Tim said. Yeah, the Colts defense last week, you had to have them to be a top team. I mean, they got like 28 points, I believe. I can't remember exactly how many points they got, but yeah, they were up there in the Millie Maker. And while we hate to pay up for defense, I think this week's actually going to be a good week. And just because we said 26. And just because we say that, I'm pretty sure the Washington football team is going to come out and get 29 football.
Yeah, exactly.
Points.
Exactly.
Yeah, Geoff, you do have a real good option, so I want to talk about that.
Yeah, so the one option that I have, it was sort of the punt defense I was looking for, and this is the cheapest defense I think I'll pay for, and that's the Texans at Minnesota. Kirk Cousins has not looked very good this year. They do have Dalvin Cook, who's a beast, obviously, but Kirk Cousins has been turning the ball over. Texans have been getting some good sack numbers. So I do think the Texans at 2.5 are a sneaky defense. They've had some tough matchups. Obviously, the Chiefs, the Ravens, 2 good good offenses. So I think that their numbers are a bit depressed because of those offenses. But the Texans at 2.5, I like them a lot. Just going back to your Indy call, I just want to toot my horn one more time. I had them as a top 5 defense coming into the season. I ranked them in such on Fantasy Pros. I thought they were going to be an awesome defense. I drafted them everywhere in all my redraft leagues, and I do think that they're kind of paying off there, and they're going to be a good defense for the rest of the season. So I love that Colts call. All right, so we ready for our stacks?
Yep.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right, Gerson, we're going to go to you first. Give me your stack of the week.
If you haven't heard me in the whole podcast, I've been talking about it, basically. I didn't talk about the wide receivers because we didn't cover them, but it's going to be Fitzmagic, Parker, and William, and that's Devante Parker. He's my second. He should be really my number 1 value wide receiver this week. Preston Williams, up-and-coming wide receiver. DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett. You can do one or the other. But Fitzmagic allows you to fit that bill, It's a very cheap stack. So you can throw him in Gasecki, but that's my stack. I'm going with the wide receivers.
All right, I like it. Tim.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and take your call a little bit here. I'm going to go with the Patriots stack. That's Cam Newton to N'Keal Harry, and bring it back with Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Nice.
Helaire.
My stack this week, I did this stack before I knew John Brown was playing. I do think it's still a good stack, but it would have been better if John Brown was out. But I got Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, and then bringing it back with Waller. I think Diggs would have been, fed a bunch more targets if John Brown wasn't there, but I do think he still gets plenty of targets in this offense. And Allen's one of my top QBs this week, so that's a nice stack, I think.
I was actually a little upset you took that one because my kind of sick call this week was that Josh Allen, I know he's priced among the top quarterbacks, but that Josh Allen was going to be in the winning Millie Maker lineup this week.
Sorry, I stole your thunder.
Millie Maker.
All right, it's time for our favorite segment of the night. Not my favorite segment this year. I've been terrible at these, but let's get to it.
And now, the sick call of the week.
So we're going to go ahead and count Jeff Wilson as your sit call last week and just give you that one. Because if you listened and you played Jeff Wilson, you did well.
Yes, yeah. I had it as my sit call in the beginning of the week. By the end of the week, he was like 12% ownership, so he's no longer a sit call. So I had to pivot to Tariq Cohen, and of course he goes out and tears an ACL. So players that get the sit call from me probably aren't the best ones to pick. But I'll take that victory there, Tim. I'll take Jeff Wilson. Gerson, let's go to you first. Who you got for your sit call?
Man, all these guys we're about to talk about, I don't think anybody knows them. Okay, so my guy is Adam Troutman. We thought that Jared Cook is going to be out. Michael Thomas is out. So target's got to go somewhere. While the standard is a great wide receiver when he gets opportunities, I think Troutman is actually a tight end that they want to develop. There's a reason why they traded all their second day, was it second day, Geoff? Round picks or something like that, second day? They traded a lot of picks just to draft
to get him.
Troutman. He's a tight end. Sorry, I haven't even said it, huh? Tight end out of Dayton, I believe.
Yep.
Very, very athletic. He had a very high player profiler, speed score and whatnot. He's kind of like Mike Gesicki, basically. But the best part about him, he's free. He's like 2,500.
Yep.
So while, yes, it's kind of worrisome, but if there's any position you want to punt, it's tight end. And he, 2,500, right now they haven't even updated his ownership. He's coming at 0%.
Wow.
So, and, yeah, I'm going to play Adam Troutman. Wow.
I like it.
Yeah.
And fans of the show that watched during the summer, we had John Lobb on, who's a very big college guy. He plays college fantasy football. He scouts college guys all year. So we had him on, and we're doing rankings. And for tight ends, they're pretty terrible overall this year with the tight end class. But he actually had Adam Troutman as his number one tight end overall. So I think that John Lobb gives a little bit of credit to that pick as well. So yeah, I like that sit call. And then
Debbie.
Debbie. What was that?
They call it Debbie.
Debbie, yes, definitely. So in the chat, actually, Brian just mentioned that his sit call is going to be Gandy Golden from the Redskins. And Tim, I saw you have the receiver from the Redskins as well. All right, it's the Washington football team. Sorry.
Oh my goodness.
You got him. Yeah, man, I'm going with Isaiah Wright. With Steve Sims out and with Terry McLaurin banged up, I think that they're going to have to cycle in. Wright saw a bunch of snaps last week after Sims got hurt. I think that they're going to integrate him in more, and he's 3K. I told you I wanted to use Isaiah Ford. It was a battle of the Isaiahs to be my sit call, but I thought Miami was a little chalky, so I'm going to go off the grid here. Isaiah Ford, 3K, and he gets you into the end zone this week.
Nice. All right, so my sit call, I didn't even list his name on our sheet because I didn't want Tim or Gerson to look at him because it's so sick that I almost puked when I kind of thought about it. Because I had a hard time finding someone that I liked. But this is going to be a Chargers wide receiver by the name of Jalen Guyton. Because Mike Williams is going to be out.
Yes, Friday UNT.
Yes. Oh. This guy is going to be, he's their burner. He's a 4.4 40. He's a fast guy. He doesn't get a ton of targets, but he only needs one. Just give him one big play. They can't feed Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler every single target. They got to go to somebody else. No Mike Evans there. I think you get one big play from Guyton, and you're going to actually, hit value. So, Jalen Guyton, look him up in your dynasty leagues as well. He's probably free right now. You can go out and grab him. Maybe he has a breakout game. So, that's going to be my sit call.
I like that one, man.
All right, Gerson doesn't. I can tell by his face. He's like, "Who the hell is this guy?"
I know who he is. It's just his sick calls.
Sick call.
I love this segment. Every week, people ask me who's my sick call, and I'm like, you don't want to know who my real players were? You want to know my sick call?
It's funny because in the chat, the whole chat, everyone's like, my sick call is this, my sick call is this, and we're still talking about receivers, and they're still talking about sick calls already. I love it. All right, let's go around the room really quick. Give us where we can follow you on Twitter, and of course, mention the Facebook group. Tim, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at KetoDFS, and of course, jump in the DFS Roundtable, aka the Fantasy G Podcast, and vote for your winner of the Roundtable Arena this week.
Nice, good stuff. Gerson.
Vote for Tim. You can find me. Yeah, you can find me there. You can also find me on Sunday, every Sunday at 10 o'clock Mountain Time. Figure it out on Google what time is your time. I'm on there with Gladys, Jared, and Himad. We do a show for basically the last hour, talk about fantasy football, and I break down DFS for the last half hour, or the last half hour of the show. Ask any of your questions. I know it gets pretty hectic Sunday morning, so please ask your questions. Be ready to. I'll be ready to answer. You can find me at the Fantasy G Pod on Twitter.
All right, good stuff. As always, guys, you can find me on Twitter at JeffLambert77. Find me in pretty much every fantasy Facebook page that there is out there right now. I mean, all of them. But with that, with Gerson, Gerson's laughing. He's laughing because it's true.
The chat rows too.
Yeah, I'm in all of them. Like literally on Sunday, I literally tell everybody I'm going on Do Not Disturb because I can't. My phone goes off so much that I can't even pay attention to the game. So I just turn my phone off completely for Sundays. I'm watching football. Leave me alone. But yeah, it's pretty bad.
I think it's funny that G literally for years has said, "Don't bother me right before lock," and now he literally does a show right up to lock.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey. I'm doing this as a big favor for Geoff.
You are. It's for the community. That's what it's for.
It's for the people.
Yeah,
for the people.
All right, guys. For Gerson, for Tim, I'm Geoff. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Hopefully, it's a good one.
Go Pack, go! We on Monday night.
Back to Texans and Vikings.